of the On-Demand Migration for Teams video training series. In this video, we're going to talk about the admin consent flow. This is a requirement so that our on-demand migration services can leverage a global administrator account that we've designated for migration actions. But first, we'll enter the Quest On-Demand portal as if we're creating a brand new organization. Now, the organization name is pretty important and should be something pertaining to the business. And the region is also important, as some features are rolled out in a staggered fashion. And as we know, some organizations have compliance requirements which restrict their data to specific geographic locations. This also generates a specific organization ID associated with this name, which is leveraged for many back-end custom commandlets that we leverage with on-demand and on-demand migration. So we'll create this Teams test organization and get right into it. When you log in, your dashboard will be empty. It'll say you need to add tenants. You can see no other tabs are accessible unless you do. So we'll do just that. And I'll just use the global administrator account that was provided on my demos tenant. But in your case, you may want to provide a designated global administrator account that was created specifically for this migration project. If you're planning on any sort of mail migration, then you need the application impersonation role assigned to this account. But for the most part, you just need global admin, Microsoft 365 cloud-only identity, and you should disable multi-factor authentication for this specific account. And if you're migrating Teams, you'll need Teams licenses for both source and target Azure AD administrative accounts. So we'll enter these credentials and it'll give you a pop-up showing you which permissions it's requesting. You can review these and document these for your clients or your organization. Now you may want to pause this video and add any other tenants involved with this project. And under tenants, you'll see your tenants listed here along with some basic stats and your directory tenant ID. You'll also see a consent status and the ability to edit consents. And that's what we're doing here. So just click on that and you'll see various on-demand services that you can grant consent for. Now, since this is migration specific, that's really all we're worried about. And under migration, you'll see that you have the ability to grant consent for basic, mailbox migration, SharePoint, and Teams. We'll go ahead and grant basic migration consent. Much like before, we'll specify a global administrator account that we want our services to utilize for basic migration capabilities. And like before, it'll show you a list of specific permissions that it requires. You can repeat this process for anything required under the migration consent section. And of course, the one we're all here for is Microsoft Teams. Keep in mind for Teams, not only does this account need global administrator rights, but it also has to be Teams licensed for this tenant. You also need to make sure this is the case for any other tenants that you add, because you'll have to grant consent just like we did for this tenant on that tenant as well by clicking Edit Consent in the Tenants tab. So after reviewing this long list, we'll click Accept. And that is how you grant consent for a tenant to whichever on-demand services you require. Keep in mind though, you'll have to do this for every tenant involved. So if you're doing a migration, like a Teams migration from one tenant to another, you will have to add the other tenant and repeat this process. We'll spare you the process of doing the exact same thing on the target tenant. So this concludes this lesson, and thank you for watching.